Hello and welcome to Bloody Good. My name is Montgomery and I've been a fan of horror my whole life.
My name is Emily and I've spent the last few years dipping my toes into the genre.
And this is Old versus New, where we take a look at the original and remake of a classic horror film.
And we decide what's best using our P.H.L.E.G.M Vibes model.
We will be looking at plot,
Horror,
location,
ensemble,
gore,
music,
and most importantly,
vibes.
And for each category, we'll both give each film a score out of 5, and at the end we'll total it all up to find out definitively which is best.
Today we look at two films that follow a group of friends as they travel through the rural outback of Texas in the 1970s. After picking up a hitchhiker, their plans go awry, and after investigating a strange house, they are hunted down one by one by a vicious killer. Today we're looking at the Texas Chain Saw Massacre.
Over 1,300 pieces of evidence were collected from the crime scene at the Hewitt residence.
Now, I love the opening of both the original and the remake. Both the text crawl at the beginning in the original and the voiceover in the remake lend this really authentic true crime feel that really gets you on the edge of your seat immediately and makes you really curious to what happens. You're told from the jump you're about to see some brutal deaths, and for me that just makes it so exciting to start. Now, I really like how the remake opens with this found footage. I think it's really fun, and I like how they point out sort of points of interest that we see later on in the film. I think it's a really fun way to open a movie and gets you really excited to find out how these things happen. Now, I do feel like the original has better pacing overall. In the remake, we spend a lot more time with the extended family and a lot of time with the sheriff. And this is fun, but for the Chainsaw Massacre film, I'm here to see Leatherface, I'm here to see a chainsaw, not to see a sheriff threaten a group of young people. So for the original, I'm going to be giving it a 4, and for the remake, I'm going to give it a 2.
Now, the plot is obviously really similar across both films, but I prefer the original because I feel like it takes a more subtle approach to the story than the remake that just feels really action-packed and it really just kind of loses grip of the story for me personally. Like Monty said, both films have quite different openings, but for me I think it works tonally for each film, their respective openings. I like them. My gripe with the remake, and you're probably going to hear me say it a few times in this video, is that it really didn't feel like it was set in the 70s. It felt like they filmed the whole film and then decided afterwards, actually, let's just add a little note at the start of the film saying, yeah, this is set in 1973, or whatever it's set. Because it does not feel like a 70s film at all. You know, Jessica Biel's walking around with a little vest that's got a little knot in the front, and it's very much giving noughties fashion, not 70s. Overall though, and I'm probably going to get hate for this, I didn't particularly enjoy either of these films that much, so you are going to see some low rankings from me throughout this video, so apologies for that. Get in the comments, you know, call me out for it, but I just didn't really enjoy these two films all that much. I'm going to be giving the original 3 and the remake 2.
Now, in the original, I love how much the horror takes place in the daytime. I think it puts you on the edge of your seat. I know I already covered this, but in horror movies, you have this expectation when it's daytime, you're safe. You don't need to be afraid, and then when it gets dark, that's when the scary stuff comes out. By flipping this on its head, it immediately puts the viewer on the edge of their seat, because they don't know when they're safe. So immediately having the first sort of kill be in the middle of the day throws all sense of safety out the window. Now in the remake, it gets quite dark and dingy sort of almost immediately as the horror starts. Even though it's daytime outside, the house is dark, and it just gives you this thing of, okay, so someone's gonna die at this point, which I think just sort of makes the film a bit boring. Now, I love Gunnar Hansen's portrayal of Leatherface. I think it's one of the best horror performances of all time. The way he screams, the way he runs, he truly feels like a lunatic with a chainsaw, and there's almost like a childlike performance to his whole character. He truly feels scary and unpredictable, and I think it is one of the best horror performances of all time. Now, in the remake, Andrew Bryniarski's Leatherface almost feels like a sort of video game version of Leatherface. He sort of disappears and appears at will during scenes. He's bursting through walls. Hell, at the end of the film, he's walking around with one arm, like he's fine. And this is just a human. This isn't like a mutant or anything like this. This is just a guy with a skin condition who happened to grow up to be 6'7". And I think this sort of takes away from what made the original Leatherface so interesting. The original Leatherface, and sort of Wyatt family as a whole, felt so realistic. It felt like a really insane group of people, whilst in the remake it feels like a movie monster, and I'm sort of taken out of it because of that. So for the original, I'm going to be giving it a 5, and the remake is going to be a 3.
In terms of the original, I think there is some stuff to like within the horror. I think it does this creeping sense of dread well. I think it makes you feel really uneasy, kind of from the get-go. When they've picked up the hitchhiker and he's got all these photos of the cows and he's talking about the cows and the process of, you know, all of that stuff, nothing is happening, but it just made me feel uneasy. I was like, oh, they're going to show me a cow being killed, and I don't fuck with that sort of stuff. But it was fine. But it made me feel that kind of way. It made me expect to see something horrific. So I appreciate it in that sense. And there are some really good kills in this, and I think they were quite unexpected. Like Monty said, stuff happening in daytime just makes it more unexpected that something bad's going to happen to you, because you think, oh, it's daytime, we're safe. And that film just cuts right through that and goes, no, you're in danger no matter what time of day it is. And I do really like that aspect of the film. Whereas the remake feels like it's trying really hard to be scary. There are jump scares for the sake of jump scares, like figures passing through doorways and stuff, that just so everyone can go, oh, I saw something over there. It's just to make you jump scare, because there's not actually anything else that scary going on. And it just feels mean. And I think this is something that seems quite common in kind of horror movies from the 90s and noughties, and even up to now. Some stuff is just mean for mean's sake. And they're putting the characters through really horrible things just for the sake of going, oh, this will be really gross. And that might be your bag, but that's not really the kind of horror I like personally. It's really bordering on torture porn for me. I don't really like that kind of horror, so that didn't really work for me personally. So I'm going to be giving the original a 3, and I'm also giving the remake a 3.
I love the Sawyer house in the original. I think it is such a creepy location. You immediately see it and you're like, nah, nothing good comes from stepping on that property. I love the visual storytelling of all of the cars from what we can assume are the past victims. And this is just a side note, but I feel like people in this film are way too cavalier about going into random people's houses in Texas. Now, I've never been there, but I think a lot of people in Texas own a lot of guns and wouldn't take kindly to a bunch of people just busting in randomly in their house. Frankly, Bubba was right. Those were intruders in his home. Now, the remake makes a creative decision to keep all the horrors in the basement and the main house relatively clean and normal looking, and I personally think this is a large mistake. I love the human furniture. I should preface that, in a horror movie context, I've not got any skin lamps around, I promise. But I think admitting that from the remake takes away massively from the creep factor of the film. I mean, come on, the human couch, the armchair with actual arms, the lampshade with the human face on it. That's the stuff you remember about the original, and not having that in the remake is crazy to me. And whilst this might not technically be locations, I just had to mention it. Not having the dinner scene was insane. That's like the most iconic part. I mean, Resident Evil 7 parodied it, for God's sake. Like, how would you not have the dinner scene in the remake? Now, I do think the remake made some fun choices. I like some of the new locations we see. I think the caravan is really fun and really stands out as a location, and the final act taking place in the meat factory, butcher place, where they kill the cows, I guess, I don't know. I think that's a really cool and creative decision. Overall, I just love the original location. I think it has some beautiful shots, and I don't know, man, I just miss when films were shot on location like this. It just looks amazing and beautiful at times. I'm going to be giving the original a 5 and the remake a 3.
Now, the house in the original film is really foreboding and really imposing. Just straight away, you get little glimpses of it from the outside, and you just look at it and you go, no, I don't want to go in there. It looks creepy. Something's not right about that place. Don't care to go inside. That's the vibe it gave you straight away, and I really, really liked that. And then even once you go inside, it's grimy, there's stuff everywhere, and when you get kind of close-ups of furniture, you realise it's bones and body parts and it's disgusting, and I think it really sells the creepiness of this house. Now, all the remains dotted around the house, they're disgusting and gross, don't get me wrong. I don't want bone furniture in my house, but it's not overly done really graphically. The camera moves around and you pick up things, it's like, whoa, that was bones, oh, that was a skull, and all this furniture and these effigies, they're creepy. But it's not really gross immediately. It's just a very unsettling thing to see around this house. But I think it's done kind of subtly enough that You pick up on it in the background first, and then it zooms in and gives you a chance to really see how horrific these things are. In the remake, the house is a lot nicer looking, and I'm going to hark back to my point from the previous section, is that it just doesn't look like a 70s house. It looks quite modern to me. And yeah, it's not imposing, it just looks like a nice big house. And when we go inside and see characters inside it, it's pretty normal looking. There's nothing amiss, really. Everything that's disgusting is in the basement, and I feel like it's a bit of a cop-out to just shove all the gross stuff in the basement and make for a more interesting scene later. I don't know, it's just missing that kind of creepiness that kind of filters through in the original, that as they walk around the house go, that's not right, that's creepy, I should get out of here. There's none of that in the remake. It's just, oh, this is a pretty normal house, and then, oh, I've been dragged to the basement and it's disgusting down here. I just think it's a little bit lazy, personally. So for the original, I'm giving it a 3, and the remake, I'm giving it 2.
Now, I think the elephant in the room for this movie is the Sawyer family versus the Hewitt family. Now, the Hewitt family feels weirdly organised. You know, they're working jobs as a sheriff, and they've kind of have this whole plan of kidnapping children to, I guess, extend their family. I think the craziest part is it doesn't really touch on the cannibalism in the movie, whilst in the original, that's kind of their whole thing. I mean, they're serving barbecue at the gas station, which is clearly human, as well as, lest we forget, the whole dinner scene. The Sawyer family feels crazy, like legitimately crazy. This family that's living on the outskirts, that the only way they can survive is by kidnapping and eating people. Now, the survivors of both groups are fairly hard to root for. They're both pretty dumb, not that likable. However, I will give Sally some credit for doing her best Leon Kennedy impression and just diving through window after window. Gotta put some respect on that. So for the original, it's going to be a 4, and for the remake, I'm going to give it a 3.
For me, there wasn't really any likable characters across either of the films. In terms of the remake, like I said, that horror in general feels kind of meaner nowadays sometimes. This group felt mean, and I think that also leans into the vibe that they're giving, that they're from the noughties, not the 70s. There's just, I don't know, a way about them all that they just seem meaner. And I think the story gets lost along the way. I think I like that the original story, they're there because the brother and sister are going to check on the grave of a relative because it might have been involved in, you know, the awful stuff at the very beginning of the film. Whereas this group have been to Mexico on a trip, and then one of them finds out the rest of them have been smuggling drugs across the border. It's like not as wholesome a group of people just from the get-go. And it's like, nah, I don't like these people. I'm not that sad about what happens to them. Also, we get kind of background that Leatherface was bullied as a child for kind of his facial deformity, and that's his excuse for killing people. That feels like a strange thing as a family to agree on. It's like, well, our son was, you know, bullied for how he looks, so we're just going to kill everyone who comes within a 5-mile radius of our house, and that's completely fine and a normal reaction to have. And it's like, well, no, not so much. So yeah, I don't know. The motivations of the family in the remake are just strange to me. So I'm going to give the original a 2 and the remake a 1.
Now, the original is surprisingly sparse on gore. Now, we have the opening where we have a corpse or corpses kind of splattered together, which looks cool, looks creepy, I like, not in a weird way. But for a film called the Texas Chain Saw Massacre, most people are just being bonked on the head with a hammer. There's actually very little chainsaw killing action. The only real graphic death we see, in my opinion, is when the brother/hitchhiker gets mowed down by that truck, and hey, I'm always here for that kind of stuff. Now, the remake definitely amps this up a bit. We get an amazing keyhole shot through the head of the girl who shot herself, which I'm always here for those kind of shots. But other than that, a lot of the gore is somewhat censored. There wasn't a whole lot of graphic murder. Now, I do appreciate we had an amazing leg cut. Always here for limb decapitation, especially when it's done well. And the meat hooks were especially brutal. And I actually really liked we got to see Leatherface making a mask from scratch. It's kind of cute. He has his own little sewing machine. I mean, hey, everyone needs a hobby. So for the original, I'm going to be giving it a 2, and the remake's also going to be getting a 2.
In the original, there are these like little flashes of gory things at the beginning that kind of go by so quickly you're not entirely sure what they are, and then the little flashes get longer and you realise what they are, and they are indeed pretty gross. But it's not crazy gross, but a little bit gross. The remake is pretty gory, especially when we pick up a hitchhiker and she shoots herself and the camera kind of goes through that hole in her head and out the back of the van window, and it was disgusting. I don't like that sort of stuff, so made me feel really gross. And I know what you're thinking, Emily, this film has the words chainsaw and massacre in the title, so I should have expected that, and I did expect that. But it's just not my kind of horror, so and I think that's okay for me to admit, and get in the comments if you really disagree with me, but I just didn't really vibe with either of these films personally. So I'm giving the original a 2 and the remake a 3.
Now, I don't have much to say about the music in both the original and the remake. Nothing stood out to me. I mean, we were watching this film with notepads and I didn't feel the need to really write anything down about the music. Now, sound design, there are some amazing things to say. I mean, the noise sound effect, iconic, amazing, I truly love it. And Leatherface's sort of grunts and pig squeals and screams are amazing and creepy, and that chainsaw sound is terrifying. The remake on the sound design front doesn't have too much I feel worth mentioning. I do appreciate, unlike the original, when someone gets put on a meat hook, you actually hear a sound effect. That does help sell it a little bit. But other than that, there's not really much to say, other than the fact they use the exact same riser that's used in Hell's Kitchen, which is just hilarious. So for the original, I'm going to be giving it a 2, and the remake's going to get a 1.
For the original, the music just didn't really grab my attention at any points. Apart from the beginning, there was this kind of creepy tone that played, but otherwise there wasn't a lot going on. There wasn't me sitting there writing notes going, oh, that music was really good. It just didn't really happen. I think it was subtle, and I think that works for the film, because it was kind of a slower paced film. But overall, the music didn't really do much for me. Music is much more prominent in the remake. It's still not used crazily, but it is used. I mean, it has Sweet Home Alabama in it. What more can you want from a film, really? And I think there are some really kind of sad and somber moments in the music as well, when Aaron has to kill Andy. It's just a nice little touch, and it adds to the scene in a way that I think actually really works. For the original, it's getting a 2, and the remake is getting a 3.
I love the vibes of the original film. It feels chaotic and crazy and almost improvised at points, and it just makes you feel like you don't know what's going to happen next. These feel like genuine crazy cannibals, and you don't feel safe at any point. Now, the remake really does fall into a lot of the traps of early 2000s slashers horror. It's trying to be scary, which really takes away from the film. I think the color grading is a bit bland and just a lot of browns and yellows that look quite ugly. And I have a personal vendetta against the lighting in the forest. I mean, what is this? Have you ever been in a forest where the moon is this bright? And it happens multiple times. And my issue with this is it is such a stylized shot. And yes, it looks cool, but it doesn't match any other part of the film. So I'm going to be giving the original a 5 and the remake a 1.
For vibes, just overall, I think you've probably gathered from my comments throughout this video, is that I didn't particularly enjoy either of these films. And that's okay. They're just not my kind of horror personally. And like I said, get in the comments if you disagree with me. Tell me why I'm wrong and why I should try them again and look at them in a different way. But for me, this just isn't the horror I like. For me, it just felt like it was kind of sacrificing story in terms of getting more gross stuff and being more shocking. And yeah, that's just not my kind of horror personally. So for the original, I'm giving it a 2, and the remake is also getting a 2.
So we've given you our opinions and our scores. Now it's time to add them all up and find out definitively what is better. Let's go find out. Whoa! Well, that was expected, wasn't it? The original with 44 and the remake with 31. Now that is a lot closer than I think it should be, but hey, that's just how the P.H.L.E.G.M scale rolls, baby. Now, you might not like this, and that's completely fine. Let us know in the comments why we're wrong. Or hey, just dislike the video. You've watched this far, you deserve to be able to dislike it at this point.
Thanks so much for watching. It really means a lot to us that you guys are tuning in, liking, commenting, and subscribing. We're a small channel and we're growing, so we really appreciate you guys coming to see us. If you like this video, we have a bunch of others like it where we compare originals and remakes of horror movies, so check those out. And if there's a film you think we should cover, let us know in the comments. But bye for now.